The rain hammered against the cracked pavement of New Terra's lower districts, where the promise of humanity's galactic empire never quite reached. Alan sat on the steps of his decrepit apartment building, watching the neon signs flicker through the downpour. His mechanical leg a cheap military-issued replacement taked in the cold. 20 years of service, 3 wars across 4 star systems, and this was what the United Earths Coalition had given him. A pension that barely covered rent, and memories that wouldn't let him sleep. He was about to head inside when he noticed her. She huddled in the alley, across the street, scales glistening like oil slicks under the streetlights, a Dracari one of the dragonkin from the Scorched Worlds. Her wings were folded tight against her back, tattered and scarred. Most people walked past without a second glance. Aliens were common enough in the city, but they were refugees now. Their homeworld had been glassed during the Coalition's peacekeeping operations. Alan knew the official story. He'd been there. He knew the truth was uglier. The dragon woman looked up, and their eyes met across the rain-soaked street. Gold eyes, vertical pupils, filled with something Alan recognized too well. Exhaustion, the bone-deep kind that came from surviving when you weren't sure you wanted to. Before he could think better of it, Alan crossed the street. "You need shelter." His voice came out rougher than intended. She flinched, wings rustling. Up close, he could see she was younger than he'd thought, maybe equivalent to a human in her mid. Her scales were dulled by malnutrition, and her clothes were little more than rags. "I have nothing to trade, human," she said in heavily accented standard. "I'm not worth much, but I can cook." She said it like an apology, like it was the only thing keeping her from complete WORTHLESSNESS. Alan thought about his empty apartment, the frozen meals stacked in his freezer, the silence that pressed against his eardrums every night. "You hungry?" She nodded slowly, suspicion and hope warring in her expression. "Come on then. I've got a kitchen you can use." Her name was Hannah. She told him this while standing in his tiny kitchen, staring at his pathetic supplies with an expression that might have been horror. "You survive on this." She held up a frozen dinner, reading the label with her head tilted. "Synthetic protein, reconstituted vegetables. Human, this is sad." Despite everything, Alan almost smiled. "Yeah, well, cooking for one doesn't seem worth the effort." Hannah's tail swished. He was learning that meant she was thinking. "May I?" She gestured at his kitchen. "It's yours." What happened next was something close to magic. Hannah moved through his kitchen like she was conducting an orchestra. She salvaged ingredients Alan had forgotten he owned, things pushed to the back of cabinets and shelves. Her clawed hands worked with surprising delicacy, chopping, mixing, tasting. She hummed while she worked, a low thrumming sound that resonated in Alan's chest. "On my world," she said, not looking up from her work, "cooking was sacred. We believed that to feed someone was to share your fire with them, to say, you are worth keeping alive." Alan leaned against the doorframe, watching. "What was it like, your world before?" Hannah's hands stilled. "Beautiful. We had crystal forests that sang in the wind, cities carved into mountainsides. We were not warriors, human. We were artists, philosophers, cooks." Her voice cracked. "Your coalition said we were harboring insurgents. Maybe some were. I don't know. I was working in a restaurant when the bombs fell." The silence that followed was heavy. Alan had heard the same story dozens of times. Different species, different worlds, same ending. He'd helped write some of those endings, following orders, believing the brass when they said it was necessary. "I was there," he said quietly. "Not on your world, but others like it." "I'm sorry." Hannah turned to look at him, those golden eyes searching his face. "You carry it to the weight, yeah? Then we are the same. You and I, survivors of a war that took everything." She turned back to her cooking, and Alan didn't trust himself to speak. They ate in silence at first. Whatever Hannah had created from his meager supplies was extraordinary, spiced, layered, complex. Each bite was a revelation. "This is incredible," Alan said. Hannah's scales flushed with Kalara Dracari blush. "It is adequate. With proper ingredients, I could do better. There's a market 3 blocks over. Tomorrow we could." Alan stopped himself. "I mean, if you want to stay, just for a while, until you find something better." Hannah set down her fork, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Why help me, human? You owe me nothing." Alan thought about all the things he could say. About loneliness, about guilt, about how her humming while she cooked was the first time in years he'd felt something other than numb. "Because you're worth more than you think," he said finally. "And maybe I am too." Hannah's eyes glistened. She reached across the table, her scaled hand covering his scarred one. Her touch was warmed or Hariron hot, he remembered from briefings he'd tried to forget. Then, perhaps, she said softly, we can remind each other. Outside, the rain continued to fall on New Terra's lower districts, where broken soldiers and displaced refugees tried to build something from the ruins of their wars. Inside, for the first time in a long time, Alan's apartment didn't feel quite so empty. Hannah stayed. Not just that night, but the next, and the one after. She cooked, and he ate. They talked, and they remembered, and slowly, so slowly they began to heal. Because sometimes, in the vast indifference of the galaxy, two broken people sharing a meal was enough. Sometimes, that was everything.